You're listening to the Rewrite the Rules podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Harriet.
I'm Beth.
And I'm Natalie.
You want to work towards achieving true food and body image freedom, you are in the right place.
Rewrite the Rules podcast is your survival guide to letting go of harmful societal expectations and unlearning any unhelpful beliefs that are stopping you from having a healthy and loving relationship with food and yourself.
Our mission is to help you feel heard, understood, and empower you to step out of the box and rewrite your rules so you can live life on your terms. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. Yes, welcome back to another episode of Rewrite the Rules podcast, and thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy to be back with you all, and especially with the amazing topic we have today, which is us giving our experience on how we broke free from diet culture and our guidance and tips on how maybe you can start upon this journey within yourself.
Specifically today, we are going to be providing you with 9 effective tips on how to stop dieting. And of course, we'll be touching on the emotions that we had to face and the behaviors we had to unlearn in order to achieve food and body image freedom.
Another trigger warning, we may be talking about calories and diets, and if these things are upsetting for you to listen to, please feel free to skip this one. But we would love to encourage you to listen, as if you feel like you are struggling with these types of things, we can help you know that there is no shame in this, and we are obviously here to help. So first of all, does any one of you girls want to tell us what actually is a diet?
Yes, so a diet can simply be explained as the food and the drink that we consume, but being on a diet normally refers to a special course of food to which one restricts oneself, either to lose weight or for medical reasons.
Yes, and we do, as a podcast, we refer to ourselves as being anti-diet, so we thought we would provide like a little crash course on why we believe diets can be harmful, so that the whole episode, I guess, makes sense in terms of why we are providing you with tips to help you break free from dieting. So essentially, why dieting can be harmful is because when you go on a diet, it's essentially following a set of rules, which normally dictate the food that you can't have. And so when we restrict ourselves from food that we can't have, then we start to crave these foods. And when we crave the foods that we are avoiding, then it makes us miserable and it can make us really unhappy. And then in the background, your body starts to adjust to eating fewer calories, and then your metabolism adjusts to this as well, and it slows down. And the reason for this is because our bodies are built to survive. And then in addition, another survival mechanism is that your body starts to produce less of the hormone leptin, and that is the hormone that makes you feel full, and it starts producing more of the hormone ghrelin, which makes you feel more hungry. So this all working in the background, along with the psychological stuff, it can contribute to overeating and binge eating and generally making you feel out of control with food. And this then makes situations that were normally enjoyable for you feel really scary. So social situations that involve a lot of food start to become really scary and start to evoke anxiety. And then this can cause us to take more restrictive action. And then this can lead you down the road of disordered eating and even eating disorders. So very, very brief overview, I think like the quickest in history of why dieting can be harmful. But I hope that makes sense to why we are just so passionate to helping people break free from dieting, find food freedom so that you can live a happier and healthier life.
Yeah, definitely. I think you explained that perfectly as well, Harriet.
That was lovely.
I'm glad you thought so.
So shall we get into how we, or the steps maybe that we took in trying to break free from food, restriction, and how we tried to find food freedom?
Yes, Beth, do you want to go first?
Of course. So I do feel like the list of the things that I did to break free from diet culture is endless, and I didn't do all these things at once. Some of these things took a whole 12 months for me to decide to accomplish, but one of the first things I did was I stopped weighing myself and I stopped measuring my body. I made a conscious effort to wear more comfortable clothes that weren't as skin tight. Then a couple of months down the line, I actually deep cleaned my wardrobe. I went through all the drawers, everything, and I just got rid of everything that didn't fit my current body. There's a lot of clothes that I was trying to diet into, and I was like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. So 3 black bags later, I deep cleaned my wardrobe. I filtered my social media feed and then actively went on the hunt for accounts that were more diverse and shared like my same values, because I think social media can easily become an echo chamber if you don't try and find opinions that can maybe like challenge yours and improve yours a little bit. I sort of opened myself up more to have a conversation and like question my norms instead of being a little bit maybe closed-minded. I focused on writing daily affirmations that focused on my ability rather than my physical body. And sort of like later into my journey, I decided to stop trying to lose weight for events like weddings and holidays. And I just try to like actively surround myself with more body positive people. So you too. But yeah, that was like my sort of brief description in a nutshell. Natalie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so the first thing that I think I've actively done was actually make the decision that I'm going to do it, because previously it had been very wishy-washy and I just said, I have to now. And that has to be in my mind that I am actually going to, take this decision on for myself to try and heal. In doing that, I got therapy, because I knew that I had to heal my mentality around food before I did any other work. And then also, this is probably going to be really controversial, but I started Weight Watchers, because I said before that the message was for Weight Watchers was to help you relearn how to eat normally. And, there was no food groups cut out. And it really did help me, because I was very, very restrictive on food groups that I would eat. It was only protein and vegetables. So it really helped me in the beginning. And then it just had the opposite effect. The weigh-ins weren't for me. And I needed to go through that journey to see that I didn't need the scales anymore as well. Because that was a big part of my life, was the scales. I educated myself on food and the importance of each macronutrient. I needed to have that learning for myself. And once you really do see why your body needs that, then I think it makes you realise, why would I ever cut it out? And worked on my self-worth. I severely body checked to the point of I was doing it in the toilets at work. All of those things really actively try to stop. If I walk past the mirror, I'd just be like, no, I would, if I was in the street, I'd always catch myself looking at my reflection in the, mirrored window. I'd had to stop doing that. And catching myself using negative words, I would try and stop that, turn them into something that I liked. Journaling, tuning into what truly what gave me happiness, regardless of what my body looked like. I just had to tune back into what I really liked, as opposed to what my body portrayed to other people. And I challenged fear foods and situations one at a time, and I wouldn't continue on to the next until I'd conquered that one. So those are just some of the things that I did.
Wow, I love that. And I love how, you used Weight Watchers until it wasn't helping you anymore. And I think that's the thing. It's like sometimes these tools and tips can help for a period of time and then they stop working, and that's okay. And it's knowing when to let go of them.
Yeah, 100%. And it was difficult and weird, because I was like, well, this is what I do. I go to this every Tuesday, and I was kind of like, yeah, but it's not benefiting me anymore. And like, even with what you said there, Beth, with you trying to tune into liking things about your body, or I really resonated with that, in what your body does for you, because I think it's really difficult as well. People think that you just have to be like, I love myself, and it's like you can start out instead by giving yourself the smaller challenge of finding what you like about your body, or what your body does for you, as opposed to what it looks like.
Love that.
What did you do to find food freedom?
So in a nutshell, my journey really started off by making that commitment, the same as you, Natalie, saying, I'm just not going to diet anymore. And I actually did it right before an event where I would normally diet. So it was right before I was going on holiday. And I think that was really significant. I think, of course, I don't know what would have happened if I had decided to stop dieting just at a random time of the year. But I think because I did it at that quite significant time, at a time where I would normally be on a really restrictive diet and a really intense diet, I think that's what made it so impactful. And because I very quickly gained the benefits of not being on a diet, I really found that peace and freedom, or experienced that peace and freedom very quickly. I just knew it was the right thing. And then after that, I just spent a lot of time researching diet culture and learning about it, and just really trying to educate myself and really understanding what actually leads to binge eating, what actually leads to negative body image. And dieting just kept coming up. And especially in my practice, when I was going on all my trainings, there was never anything that suggested that dieting could be good for you in the context of disordered eating and eating disorders. Actually, it was always suggested that dieting activated disordered eating and eating disorders. It literally opened up that door. So yeah, I just became very educated on the subject. But then also personally, I did a lot of work on myself in terms of learning to accept my body the way it is now, and accepting that my body changes, and accepting that I might gain weight, and I didn't gain weight. And I kind of briefly spoke about this in the last episode, but also exploring and getting curious about the urge to lose weight and trying to understand, where is that coming from? Is that coming from me? Is that coming from society? Is that coming from social media? Like, why do I think that losing weight will solve all my problems? Because I think that's how I interpreted weight loss, as this will solve my problems. This will make me happier. This will make me better at my job. This will make more people like me. This will make my holidays better. Things, it's crazy how you think, but it was almost like losing weight will solve all of my problems. And I had to really, understand that actually that's not true. It actually creates more problems. It takes up more energy, it takes up more of your resources, and just had to decide not to do it anymore, and to face those, qualms I had in terms of like, why do I feel like I have all these problems, and actually face those problems head on instead of trying to fix it with weight loss. So yeah, in a nutshell, focusing on what I truly valued in life and getting curious about my body and my emotions and all of that. So it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it.
100%. I literally, everything that you said there, completely, yeah, I just loved it. And I completely get when you said you think that it's going to fix all of your problems. Losing weight was your solution to being happy. And you really have to sit with yourself and figure out what your values are in life, regardless of material things, regardless of money. If all of those things were gone, what would matter to you? Is it family? Is it your interests? Either of those. Does your weight affect those two things? It doesn't. If you were slimmer, would your family not be there for you? No, then that's what I think when you write a list of those things and you realise, regardless of your body or your weight, those things are still going to be there and they're still going to matter as much. That's when you realise, okay, the dieting may be a thing that I need to let go of and just really live in the moment and be present. That's what I really wanted to do, and I found with Food Freedom is just really being present in the moment, not constantly thinking of what if I'd lost this weight, what if I'd done this.
I definitely think when I started my journey, I didn't realise that I was breaking free from diet culture. I think especially when I began, I didn't even know what diet culture was. I wasn't really aware about why I was in this cycle or why I was constantly wanting to lose weight in the first place. And then it was only sort of when I found Food Freedom, and then I sort of realised, actually, I just don't want to diet anymore. And like you, Harriet, then educating myself further, it's shocking, but it was also like some form of awakening. So I really loved just learning about it. But so I want like the listeners at home to not be intimidated by the phrase diet culture, because it sounds intimidating, but it isn't. It's just breaking free from diets and then not wanting to continue in this cycle of hating yourself and wanting to change yourself.
So we're now going to give you guys 9 top tips on how you can actually start to break free from diet culture and stop dieting. Of course, take what you need, leave the rest, but we really hope you're going to find these tips helpful. And yeah, feel free to grab some paper, grab a pen, note them down, jot them down. And yeah, without further ado, we'll get into the first tip, which is one of my favorite tips, but that is simply deciding that you want to stop dieting. And I know that sounds so simple, but you actually wouldn't believe the amount of people who try to skip this step in terms of that, yeah, you know, it's in their head, I want to stop dieting, so I'll just go ahead and, you know, do whatever else I need to do. But actually sitting and making a moment out of this commitment to stop dieting and saying it out loud. And for me, I remember I told my partner, I said it out loud, I'm not going to go on a diet for this holiday. And he asked me, are you not really not going to diet for this holiday? And I said it again, yes, I am not going to diet for this holiday. And I made it a moment for myself. And I think if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to stop, actually sit down, like tell someone, or even writing it down, I am going to commit to stop dieting, but make it significant.
Couldn't agree more. It's like you're putting it out there to the universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've said it now, so therefore this is real, you know, this isn't something that I'm an ahhing about. It's like, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah. And I would so recommend getting yourself a journal and literally almost like writing a letter to yourself, like, dear name, I'm going to stop dieting. This is why. And I'm going to try my best. And I think just making it a moment, making it significant, and I think it can be so powerful, but I would 100% recommend that being your first step.
Yeah, definitely. The second step that we have is focusing on allowing yourself a balanced meal. And that's including all food groups, proteins, fats, carbs, and also making sure that no food is off limits, because what can still subconsciously happen is you're still eating a food and somewhere in your mind you're telling yourself that you shouldn't be eating it, which still then is provoking guilt around eating it. So you really again have to commit to saying that there is no good and bad food. All foods are allowed. You know, the only reason why we have come to fear these certain foods is because they've been out of balance. You know, maybe if you've binged, you see them in a negative way, or you see that they have a negative impact on your body, because they have. It's been, you know, when you have a binge, it's way out of balance. But once you see that you can eat all foods, you can eat them as and when you want to, and when it's in a balance in a healthy way, there's no harm, there's just enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. And remembering how diet culture targets certain food groups in turn, you know, fats were targeted and carbs were targeted. And now this is like anti-sugar, and it understanding that in a lot of ways it can just be a trend, and it's okay to include all food groups into your diet.
The next tip is to begin following sort of anti-diet or body positivity or body neutrality accounts on social media, and following accounts that display a wide range of body types as well. I really made an effort to filter out my social media accounts, all of them. I unfollowed anyone that made me feel the slightest bit bad about my body. They can be a really nice person, but if their feed is not benefiting you emotionally and you're looking at their content and thinking that makes me want to go on a diet, please mute or unfollow. And especially on places like TikTok, I personally found that you don't have as much control over the content that turned up on your feed, because obviously it's an algorithm. So I made the effort with any content that was about dieting or about clean eating or about being like that girl. And then if there was particular accounts that were coming up, I was just like, okay, you are blocked now. I then started looking around for different accounts that were like sort of preaching the message that I was speaking, but I was also looking for to like just reiterate my thoughts and just help like motivate me like on my journey. And I wanted these accounts to say things like, love yourself in the here and now. You don't have to change yourself. You don't have to be on a diet, things like that, like plain and simple. Altering like your social media feed can have like such a positive benefit on like your day-to-day life. And just think like how many hours a day we spend on social media. You want it to be a nice, positive, beneficial place to be.
Yes,
Definitely, I completely agree. I think once you learn that what you're seeing each day or what you're actively looking at really has an impact on how you can view yourself. I just remember thinking, wow, I need to unfollow these people. And the way I felt and how much better I felt about myself, you know, I really think that that's a good tip, and it's something that everyone should sort of try and do. Only follow people that make you feel good.
Yeah. It's important to understand as well that most people who struggle with disordered eating and eating disorders also have low self-esteem and therefore can be very vulnerable to being influenced by others. And so you may think that following a certain group of people is harmless and it's not having that direct effect, but actually it can influence you in a way that can be just like really harmful, even if that person doesn't mean to do it. And I'm sure they don't, you know, like Beth, you said, like they could be the nicest people in the world, but if they're triggering you in terms of making you feel less than in your own skin, you have to take that action of doing a cleanse of your social media.
Yes, definitely. Also, seek support from a therapist or a coach. And hey, you know, you're listening to the right podcast because there's 3 of us here that offer support. I would really, really suggest just doing that inner work and having somebody else being able to help you with that, because it's quite a task to take on for ourselves and it's a lot to unpack. And I think I know myself, I needed someone to guide me through that. And that's why therapy is amazing and coaching is amazing, because you have someone there by your side for those times when it gets really hard and you're not quite sure how to navigate on working through an emotion, and they can help you and it can push you further along on your journey. Yeah, having someone to lean on is always really, really effective.
Yeah, it's a big thing to tackle by yourself, especially if you don't know, if you're literally starting from a place where you're like, I don't know about diet culture, or I don't know where to start. It can be one of the best investments you make to actually reach out to someone and seek that support. And, you know, therapy is amazing for really unpacking everything, getting, you know, creating that awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior. And then coaching is just, that support is just invaluable. And obviously we all know that when you're struggling with disordered eating and your relationship with your body, it can honestly be a day by day thing, like an hour by hour thing sometimes. And yeah, I just think that one-on-one support is just so valuable and can be so significant to your journey. But okay, tip number 5 is research diet culture and get to know the stats. So I'll just tell you a couple of stats. First one, 95% of diets fail, and most people regain any lost weight within 1 to 5 years. So
mad.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but it doesn't make dieting seem that appealing anymore, does it? It's one thing having your own experience of, yeah, I've been on a diet and it didn't work, been on a diet, didn't work, been on a diet and didn't work. But actually knowing that statistic, that actually it's not you, it's diets. And that's why a lot of weight control interventions just don't work, and they just make you feel so miserable. Even if you are successful at losing weight, you end up regaining it because your body is just, you know, almost in this like freak out mode. It's like, I need to hold on to anything I can. And your metabolism slows down, like what I said at the beginning. So yeah, it's not something that is benefiting us, is it?
Listening to that, I actually really can't believe, because I know some stats, but I didn't know that stat.
Yeah.
And that's when you do hear it like that, you're like, wow.
I think it makes you feel like it's not your fault. Obviously, we know that now, but when you are starting your journey, you are still very much blaming yourself. So I think just hearing statistics like that is really, really helpful.
And then a second stat, which is hard to hear, 35% of occasional dieters progress into pathological dieting, which essentially is a disordered eating. And then 25% advance to full-blown eating disorders. So it's not something to play around with at all. And it's serious. And that's why, you know, we make this podcast and we're making this episode, because it's not just like a little thing, or stop dieting and you might feel better. Actually, it's like stop dieting and you could save your life without sounding too extreme, but it's the truth.
For sure. And I think I'm not trying to make this like doom and gloom, but you never know how something is going to affect you and how severely it's going to affect you. You know, it could be a fleeting thing in which you feel it only sticks with you, or the diet culture and the way that you feel restricted only lasts for a certain amount of time, or it can really grab a hold of you and pull you down. And, you know, I have seen that in my experience. I know people in which I never would have thought that had happened to them, and they're really struggling to find their way out of it. That's why we, like you said, we really want to be here, because we just want to make everyone aware of that. And yeah, I think things like this are extremely important for people to know. So our next tip is, and this is obviously one that I bang on about, is having your why. You know, what has driven you to want to break free from dieting? Is it you're exhausted? Is it you're unhappy? You no longer spend time with your family? That could be your why, that you want all of those things back. Or your why could be something in which you want to gain in the future. You want a family. It's really important, because having a purpose for the mission that you are taking on makes it so worthwhile at each and every stage of your journey. Whether you have real highs, you can be like, oh my God, like I'm so happy I did that because I'm getting closer to my purpose. Or when you're really, really struggling, you can be like, come on, I need to stick with this, because again, there's something which I want to attain. And I know that continuing with this journey, I'm going to get that.
Okay. And I think you are definitely going to have times where you really struggle and you do want to throw the towel in, and you think, you know what, is this journey worth it? And that is when your why comes back in. It's when you remind yourself how exhausted you were, or how much money you were spending on like fat, low fat, low sugar, low whatever products. You've got to remember when you don't have enough energy to do the things that you enjoy, whether that's exercising or just being able to go out and spend time with like family and friends. You've got to keep those wires at like the forefront, because that could be like what pushes you to just like try for another month, and then on after that as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's your springboard, isn't it? Your why when you're feeling down and like demotivated and struggling, because it is hard. So yeah, 100%.
Our next tip is tuning back in with your body and sort of beginning to listen to your hunger cues again, listening to your fullness levels. Obviously, this is a very big topic, and I think we could do a whole episode about just tuning in to your body. But after ignoring them for so long, trying to go back and like unwrite those habits that you've set in stone can feel really, really difficult. So just doing simple things like slowing down your eating, trying to just be like more focused on the plate in front of you, making sure that you don't have any distractions. Like, I don't know about anyone else, but I used to sit there like with my phone and my laptop and the TV blaring, trying to eat my breakfast, and then wondering why I'd sort of forgot how it had disappeared in the first place. So just ensuring that you are like fully focused, trying to sit in like a quiet, uninterrupted space. I know that's not possible for everyone, but just making that effort just so it's like easier. I would also take breaks between eating things, especially things like, for example, like cake. And I was just really worried that I was just going to sit there and devour the whole thing. And I was just like, how do I decide how many slices of cake that I want? Something simple like that can be decided by having one slice, then getting up, doing a task for 10 minutes, and then coming back and then asking yourself, do I want another one? And if the answer is yes, then go ahead and just sometimes practicing delayed tactics. Instead of telling yourself, no, I can only have 2 slices, I bet you that's going to make you want 4 slices. So trying like little delay tactics, slowing the whole process of eating down is like the first few steps to get you to start listening, especially to like your fullness and satiety cues.
Yeah, I talk about delay tactics all the time with clients, because
absolutely, it's so helpful.
Yeah, because there's a difference between saying no, I can't have this, versus I can, if I still want this in an hour, I can have it, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's a different vibe. It's a different energy. So the next tip number 8, is do not expect perfection on this journey. Do not expect this to be a linear journey where it's just up, and then it's just, all smooth sailing. And that's not to scare anyone, but it's just to tell you the truth. Breaking free from this and healing your relationship with food and your body, it is a process. It's not a straightforward one. And this is why we can't recommend asking for support more, because you need to be reminded that any wobbles on your journey are not failures. They're always learning experiences. They're always opportunities to reflect. And you can't be so hard on yourself. We spent so many years in diet culture believing that we need to be thin and that's the answer, that's the solution, and that it's just the norm. I thought it was the norm for so many years. To suddenly have this perspective shift, you can't expect to be perfect at it straight away. And I always say that it's not about going from 0 to 10, it's about going from 0 to 1, and then from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3. And I just really want to make the point and drill in the point that you don't need to start this journey thinking, okay, I'm at 0 now, by next week I need to be at 10, because it's just not sustainable. And so I always say, it's not about expecting failure, but it's preparing for it. So it's knowing now, if you have a wobble, if you have a slip up, if you have an intrusive thought that's like telling you to lose weight, get curious, use it as an opportunity for reflection, and just give yourself that grace.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that pairs really well with sort of filtering your social media feed, because just because someone else has told you they got from 0 to 10 in the first week doesn't make that the standard. I love the phrase, don't measure yourself with someone else's ruler. Just because the people you are following have X results or are making it seem so easy or are doing this and that on their journey doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing or you were a failure because your progress doesn't match up to theirs. And that's why it's so important to follow people who are raw and real about their journeys and will show you the shit bits to make you feel more justified and like confident in your own journey.
Yeah, and I think as well, we're really instilled with this perfectionism from diet culture. You are told that you have to go on this diet, follow it to a T, and that is why when we do have failures in recovery, we see it as that. We see it as a failure because we did a diet and it didn't work. This is completely different, and those things that don't go right, when they don't go right and then you face them again later on, you'll see how far that you've come and you'll realise exactly why that needed to happen. There is absolutely, there's nothing that can go wrong. It's just a journey of ups and downs in which you need to take.
Yeah, don't treat this like a diet in terms of there's a set of rules I need to follow. If I break it, then that's it. I've messed up and I'm a failure. It's perfectly said, Natalie. This is not what this is. Everything is an opportunity for reflection, and it's always a learning experience. I always say it's an LE. It's an LE.
Well, our ninth and final tip is detaching from the numbers and getting rid of like dieting tools as well. So that's getting rid of the scale, stop weighing yourself, and not focusing on like clothing size and just trying to stick to your clothing size and not letting your body go up or down, and detaching from calories, uninstalling the apps on your phone that tell you that there's 2 grams of fat in this and 4 grams of sugar in that. So this is something that I haven't told anyone. When I got to the point in my journey where I decided, right, I've got to give up the scale because I knew it was toxic. I knew it wasn't benefiting me. But this is a very hard thing to do. It's hard to go cold turkey with something that you have literally routinely done for multiple times a day for years and years and years. So in that detachment period, I had popped on the scale because I thought, yeah, why don't I just punish myself today? I couldn't resist a peak apparently. And I stepped on the scale and I got so angry at the weight that I saw that I stomped on the scale. And it seems so erratic right now, but I stomped really, really hard on them and actually broke them. Obviously, it's a blessing in disguise now, but I just think it's ridiculous how angry and aggressive I was in that moment to sort of do something like that. That I was angry at my own weight and I was thinking, oh, this is definitely the scale's fault. I just think that like displays the mindset that we can be in at times, like that erratic, angry mindset. But yeah, this is why it's so important to like work to detach from the numbers. So removing the scale or crushing it like I did. If you feel like you need to maybe like cut out the sizes of your clothes, I've seen a lot of people like just remove that little tag out because it's literally just a number. It does not mean anything. Whatever you think is going to help you on your path to food freedom, do it. yes, it might take a while for, like, after you've uninstalled like the calorie counting apps, yeah, it's going to take a while for your brain to unlearn those numbers and not just seeing a piece of bread as X amount of calories and sort of looking at food and only seeing them as numbers. It can be unlearned, and it will be unlearned, and removing these apps and just stop focusing on the numbers is only going to assist your progress, really. So
yeah, Beth, that makes me laugh so much about this stomping on the scales, because a picture that really changed my mindset and was a big shift for me in my journey was seeing a girl throw her scales out in her garden, and it was just a picture of her garden, and then you could just see the scales at the far back because she had just chucked her scales out the window.
Yeah.
I thought, that's freaking amazing. I love that. So yes, break your scales.
Yeah,
Adam doesn't even know that,
definitely.
though. They've just disappeared out the bathroom and he hasn't asked.
Are you sure it wasn't Beth's scales in the garden that you saw, Harriet?
Yeah.
Chucked them out the bathroom
Definitely
window.
when they went after.
Yeah, it was actually on Beth's personal Instagram account.
That was a private story, guys.
Close friends only.
It was on her close friends story.
Can I just say one last thing that I think is really important as well? Is to remember this journey has no time frame. It literally, like, there's no end point. It takes however long it's going to take, and sometimes we can get really frustrated because we want an end point. And I think that's the main thing that I've seen with coaching people, is they're like, why is it not happening now? Things happen when you least expect them to happen, and sometimes they also happen and it takes you a few days to catch up on them. So it's just remembering, just being super kind to yourself and just letting them take place when they do. You know, there's not like on a Tuesday I know that this will happen. Yeah, just so much self-care and self-love on this journey that you're taking on.
Definitely. And yeah, there's no time frame, but of course, know your triggers and work on committing to this process. And I know, again, that sounds like really obvious, but I think it's just so important to prioritize this. If you're struggling at the moment, prioritize this work. I'll put these tips in the show notes so that you can look at them and see, which one you want to prioritize first. But I think really try to commit to this work and you will see the benefits. Well, amazing, guys. We hope that you enjoyed these tips. As we said before, take what you need, leave the rest. Make sure you tell us which tip was your favorite. Other than that, we will see you guys in our next episode.
Yes. See you later, guys.
See you later.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, make sure you subscribe to us so you don't miss out. And if you really love this episode, we would also love it if you could leave us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast.
Also, if you think any of your girl or guy friends would enjoy this podcast, make sure you share it with them so we can spread the love.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram over at Rewrite the Rules Pod. If there's anything that you would love for us to talk about, just send us a little DM and we'll add it to our list. See you next time.
Bye.